Hi everybody, welcome to Go Big Bore or Go Home, where recoil is required. Why? Because we're the house of the rising gun, of course. This week I wanted to do a review of the Springfield Armory 1911 Loaded. So what this is it's a 1911 chambered in 45 ACP. It's basically kind of an upgraded version with all the whistles and bells that most people really would want in 1911 these days. So I thought it would be really interesting to go through it, see what it's got, see what features are good, maybe what features aren't so good, and see if this might be a gun you would enjoy shooting, or maybe even a gun that you would want for self-defense. So, without further ado, let's take a closer look and let's get into it. Okay, so let's take a look at the Springfield Armory 1911 Loaded. In looking at the features and what this gun offers, it literally is what the name says. It is a 1911 that has been loaded with all of the upgraded features that people really want in a 1911 these days. So let's go through those. You've got your beaver tail safety, which is fantastic. I really feel that Springfield Armory does these really well. Very comfortable. Skeletonized hammer. You've got the skeletonized and adjustable trigger, so it's adjustable for take-up. You've got the ambidextrous safety. You've got the flared and lowered ejection port, and then you've got the front cocking serrations along with the rear cocking serrations, and they are a little bit wider, which allows for better purchase. You also have Novak cut sights, which is great because that provides you opportunities. If you don't like these sights, they're very easy to find replacements for, and they're night sights. For me, that's a big one. Night sights don't come standard on a lot of firearms, but if you want a 1911 for home defense or for trail defense or for, anything like that, I want night sights. So for me, that's a cool thing. So it's really great. And you do have some of those great features that you get on a normal 1911 that we all kind of love. You get a straight mainspring housing, which for me at least, and I think most people I know, this is much more comfortable. You get these nice wood grips, and even though they've got the Springfield logo in here, they've got that classic diamond cut that is very, very 1911. So it's also got a really nice clean look on this side. It just says loaded, but it's this nice clean slab side, as they used to call it. And it has a nice clean bottom, which a lot of people like. And it has the traditional 7-round Springfield Armory magazine. So that's what you're getting. You're getting basically an upgraded 1911 that, in my opinion, is more suited for carry, for home defense, for woods defense than, a mil spec. And I think that's pretty cool. Now the MSRP is $978. I do think you could get that for less. I'm not sure. When I bought this was a few years ago, and I got it on a Black Friday sale, so I don't want to talk about what I got it for because good luck finding it. I went ahead on day one and I took this out to the range and I put 225 rounds through it, day one. And I tried 3 different rounds as far as ammunition, and I tried, I want to say 5 different types of mags. Let me see. 4, I think 4. So I tried the 7-round Springfield Armory mags. The gun comes with 2. I tried Chip McCormick magazines. I tried Wilson Combat 47D magazines, and I tried the, I think they're the ACT mags. They came with my Citadel, which is essentially made in the same place as Rock On Armory, and they're all 8 rounds. The only 7-round mags were the Springfields. Everything else was 8. It functioned perfectly with all of the magazines, not one malfunction. And when I say not one malfunction, I mean out of 225 rounds, nothing. Not one round at all. No failure to eject, no failure to feed, no double feeds, nothing. This thing ate everything I gave it. I gave it 185 rounds of Federal American Eagle 230 grain full metal jacket, 20 rounds of Spear Gold Dot 230 grains, and also 20 rounds of Hornady XTP plus P 230 grains. And nothing. Not one malfunction. This thing is a beast. I usually have this in a different configuration because I have it set up for 460 Roland, converted to that round. It has eaten every 460 Roland I've put through it with no malfunctions. The gun has now been put through at least 500 rounds with both 45 ACP and 460 Roland, and it has malfunctioned 0 times. I've never had a 1911 do that. So that's really amazing, really amazing. I'm just thrilled with that. Again, if this is something you're going to pick up for self-defense, woods defense, home defense, this thing is reliable to a point where, I don't want to say, oh, it's as reliable as a Glock, because I'm sure somebody will say different. But as far as 1911s go, this is the most reliable 1911 I've ever shot. And I would absolutely trust my life with it. So it's fantastic. I really like that. And then, of course, the next question, accuracy. Wyatt Earp once got asked, how important is it to be fast? And he said, well, fast is fine. Accuracy is final. And he's right. So I tested this gun standing at 11 yards at my range, which is about 10 meters. And the best group was 2.5 inches, and the worst group was 3 5/8 inches. These were all 5-shot groups. I'll show them here. And the average was 2 3/4 inch groups out of 6 groups. So that's great. Sub 3-inch groups are the norm at 11 yards. That's 33 feet. Most interactions, if you're using for their self-defense, are within 7 yards, so 21 feet. So I feel comfortable in saying that this is a firearm that is reliable. It is a firearm that is accurate. If you do put your faith in it, you will be rewarded. And that's just a fantastic thing to have in a firearm that's kind of what it's designed for. So let's talk about some of the things that I didn't like, or things I thought that could have been done better. Now, if you're going to make a firearm in today's market that's for self-defense or woods defense, there's no light rail here. Now, for purists like me, it doesn't bother me. I like it, but there's no light rail, and I would want that for home defense. Some people really want a red dot. They want that, optic for this. You can buy a plate, but it does not come with one. So again, is that a bad thing? It's up to you. For me, it's just something to point out because it is what people, I think, expect. Nowadays, they really want that, and you don't get it. They do provide a loaded chamber indicator. As you can see, there's a little hole in the barrel. Now, I'm going to say this is a nice clean way of doing it, but it's also not very effective, which I will say, this is where I do like those front cocking serrations, because it allows me to do a press check very easily. Especially they're wider here. I'm going to show an example of the opposite, but I was going to say, for me, this is not sufficient. I'm still going to press check it. But again, having this kind of negates my concern about the LCI not being as good as it could be. It does also bother me about one thing. If you're going to make this a combat 1911, when I say combat, I just mean a defensive 1911. So if this is going to be something for defense, then the two things I would really want that it's missing are a mag well and an 8-round magazine. Now, I'm just going to illustrate, without that mag well, you can run into that. It's a little harder to get in. Now, you do have a really positive magazine, and I will say these are the most reliable magazines I've ever handled in a 1911. The 7-round Springfield ones, they're flawless. I don't think I've ever had a jam in any 1911 with them. But again, you don't have a mag well, you're 1 round down. For me, I'll take everything I can get when it comes to self-defense, and I would want that. So that's a little disappointing. And I'll kind of illustrate that real quick. And I'll also illustrate, this is stock except for one thing right now. I put on a smooth mainspring housing because I do shoot this in 460 Roland. And after not only myself, but several people kind of noticed that after you shoot, 10 or 20 rounds, it kind of starts to scratch your hand. Not a big deal, but hey, it's an easy fix. Why not? And I know people are going to say, well, why didn't you put on the mag well? This for me is really a channel firearm in 460 Roland, and I only use 7-round mags for 460 Roland because I don't need an 8th round. It's just for the channel. But again, if I was going to keep this in 45 ACP and use this for defense, I would want a mag well and 8 rounds. I would want something like this Wilson Combat 8-round 47D magazine. I found these to be fantastic, and as you can see, they go in no problem, no issues. They function just fine. Oh, I forgot to mention this. It also does have a full-length guide rod. Now, there are people I know swear by these, people who say it doesn't matter. Aesthetically, I don't think they look as good, but this one works great. So as far as function, it's nice. And if you want that full-length guide rod, it's nice to have. So, but again, going back to what I was saying, sorry for the interruption. Yeah, I would switch out the mags to something like this. And since Springfield Armory makes 8-round mags, I was kind of surprised that it didn't come with them. Again, going to real quick talk about the serrations. This is my range officer from Springfield Armory. You can see it just has the front ones, or the rear ones, I'm sorry. And they're that more fine. And this is great when my hands are dry. If my hands have any oil or water, it doesn't grab as well as the wider ones here, which I prefer. And there's no front serrations for me to do my press check. And as you can see, it's got that same loaded chamber indicator. So I'm going to be doing press checks, but I'm probably going to have to do them from here. I would much prefer, again, the wider ones like this and on the front. So that's a win. By the way, the stock mainspring housing on this gun is this. It's the 25 lines per inch. If I was only going to shoot this in 45, I would have left it. But I did want to point out this gun has the magwell. Now, it came stock with one. I put a different one on it that I like. This is the Rock Island Armory 10mm that I did a review on. But again, you know, just to illustrate, you know, when you go to put in a magazine, much easier to get a positive engagement with that magwell because it gives you that you know, slide in. So again, these aren't necessarily deal breakers, just things I would have liked to see that weren't present. Okay, so let's talk about the final thoughts on this pistol. The hits. It's got great features. You've got the front and rear cocking serrations that are nice and wide. You got the Novak cut sights that allow you to replace them if you don't want them. And they're night sights, which for me, that's a big plus. Not to mention you've got some great standard goodies. The lowered flared ejection port. You've got the skeletonized and adjustable for take-up trigger. The adjustable, I'm sorry, not adjustable, the skeletonized hammer. And you've got this wonderful beaver tail right from the start. Not to mention good-looking grips. Number two is it's incredibly accurate and reliable. Really fantastic. I have fed this over 500 rounds, both in 45 ACP and when I converted to 460 Roland. It hasn't jammed on me once, not once. Every round has chambered, fired, and ejected. If you want a gun for self-defense, that is so important. And it's accurate enough that I'm constantly shooting under 3-inch groups at 10 to 11 yards. That's fantastic. Really, if you know, Wyatt Earp said it best. Fast is fine, but accuracy is final, and that's always true. If the gun always goes bang and you can hit straight with it, it's hard to ask for more if you're using it for self-defense. And finally, it's got this really great tight lockup. I mean, listen to this lockup. There's no loose parts. It fits great. The fit and finish is fantastic. How about the misses? Well, most people are looking for a light rail and an optic mounting ability, and this gun just doesn't have it. Purists like myself, not that big a deal on a 1911, but a lot of people are looking for it. Number two, it's kind of pricey. The MSRP is $978 according to Springfield's website, and for me, I think this should be about $50 to $100 lower. Not a lot lower, and you might be able to find it for that, but just going by MSRP, I think it's a little high. And finally, again, if this is a self-defense gun, I want 8 rounds. And Springfield Armory makes 8-round magazines, but they chose to ship it with these. The 7-round magazines, honestly, are the most reliable Springfield magazines and 1911 magazines in general I've dealt with, but I want that extra round if I'm using this for self-defense. So what's the final shot? Well, despite some of the flaws, in its price point, I don't think you can get yourself a better 1911 pistol, period. You can get a better one for more money, you can find some for cheaper, but in this price point, I think this is tops. Thanks so much for watching the video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit like, please hit subscribe. It really helps us out, and it lets us know what content you enjoy. If you didn't like it, well, hey, I appreciate you making it all the way to the end, and thank you for the opportunity. And as always, guys, go big bore or go home. See if we can wait for this airplane to get by.